What's up guys, welcome back to another GGF video, and today I'll be doing a quick video on this build here. Now for those who were looking for a time-lapse build video, I do apologize because this build was done in a very short time frame and I had to send this off to Computex, and as you can see this says Trident Z, so of course this is for the G.Skill booth at Computex 2025. So just want to do a rundown on this build, the case that you might be running, what this is, the overall aesthetics, and some new things like this DeltaMate GPU block. Now, I'm not sure when I'm going to be posting this video. I'm doing it about a week and a half out from Computex. Obviously, I'm probably not going to post it beforehand because this block is new. It's being released at or showcased around Computex, and I don't really want to give away the whole build before it goes on display at Computex. So maybe Computex day 1 or 2, I might release this video. So I'm going to scoot over this way a little bit because the back of this case or this build looks really good. I'm gonna do some video trickery where I'm gonna phase in the back on this side. I only have one build, so I need to film this from the back, phase it in over here so I can talk about both sides so you can see both of them at once. So I'll just scoot over a bit. So yeah, pretty much this case here is done by Haji from Hardline Nexus. Now, he's been doing these for a couple of years now. He's done his morph cases, the small ones. If you're into the whole SFF sort of area or just custom cases, you probably have seen them around. You may have even bought one or two. This is the Valkyrie XL. So he sent me this to do this G.Skill build. Now you might be running, well, how do you get into doing a build for G.Skill? Now, I've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years for G.Skill. They do two things at Computex. They have like a modding stage where they have a bunch of modders. Their photos are all above, and then they have all the builds down below. Then they have the OC scene where they have a overclocking competition where a bunch of overclockers around the world are competing on stage pretty much throughout all of Computex. It's really an insane experience, and it's really an honor to be sort of up there having this build or my previous builds on display. So this year I was working with Haji from Hardline Nexus. We were thinking of a scratch build to do for G.Skill. Now we were planning it, and then I thought, hey, well, he's revamping this case. He's going to launch it soon. So I thought, why not just use this that he's already got? The time frame was super short. He got this done, sent it over to me on a Monday, and then that same Thursday, so basically 4 days, I had to ship this out, which is going to be tomorrow as of filming this. So I have to quickly pack this down tonight, get it out tomorrow in my Pelican case to go to Computex, because Computex is only a week and a bit away. So I pretty much got the case. I had a lot of ideas on what I wanted to do. I got him when he was designing it to put this Trident Z on the side. He does do these rad covers front and back. I've only put one on the front, got the Trident Z done in there, and this really awesome vinyl wrap I've added on this and on the back is, they call it like forged or carbon forged or forged carbon. It looks really good, and the red just blends in really nicely. So basically went with the black and red theme, wanted to tie everything in. Of course, G.Skill, I think they're known for being red, although their red isn't quite like this. I like a dark cherry kind of red, almost with a hint of pink, not so much the orangey red, which I think the G.Skill logo is. So I pretty much got the case, went to town on it. Basically Monday, Tuesday afternoon, I finished. Now the back took a bit of work. As you can see, I'll phase it in over here. The back looks really awesome, and I think it may look better than the actual main side. So the main thing I wanted to do with this case is I wanted to make it look good from all sides. That's very hard on an open, I'll pretty much say this is an open air chassis. From the top, the front, the side, the back, everywhere is just open, and that's the way this case is designed. A lot of you guys might not like it, but that's how he has designed it, and that's how a lot of his cases are done. So yeah, I pretty much went to town working on the back. I ordered some things, had some things going in my mind on what I was going to do before the case arrived. Clockwork Industries does these cable combs. You might be thinking, well, everyone does cable combs. These cable combs are panel mount. So basically panel mount is they're a cable comb that you can stick on a surface, not really stick, they have an M4 thread in the back. So you line them up, put them on your panel where you want, and then you screw in from the back. So I added a bunch of those on the back of the motherboard tray, painted those an anodized red. They were a different color because I was going to use them for a different project. Ended up having them and I painted them red for this project. And that's how the cables are done. Now these cables are cable mod. I will admit, if you're going to do something like this where you have the cable channels where each individual cable runs down in a nice flow, cable mod cables are very, very hard to do. Not saying they're bad or anything, it's just the way that they're done. They don't really give you a short or a long side when you go to curve them. Basically, the cables are pretty much straight with a slight curve. Then when you come down the bottom where you have like the heat shrink and the splits and stuff, you get random lengths of cable. So ideally, when you're doing those cable manifolds where they all run and flow together, you really need to do them custom, and then you run each cable at a time. And then when you get to the end in the PSU, you make them the right length you need. Because say on a 24 pin, the far left cable, when it curves around, is going to be a different length than the far right cable, because depending on the radius and where it curves, it's going to be different lengths. So cable mod ones were hard. If you do want to use cable mod ones, I will suggest making them a bit longer. Mine were exactly, I wouldn't say exactly, these ones are pretty tight. I could have done with maybe ½ an inch longer. Make sure you make them a bit longer so you can get the channels nicely done. So that probably took the longest, getting those channels right, because trying to get those cables, they're double stacked. So for a 24 pin, you only have 12 slots because they're double stacked, and that gives you the 24. It's just hard because when you put them in, it's kind of like they're like a comb. So you're trying to feed the cables in, and then when you go to mount it on the panel, they slip out, and you don't want to get one in a different channel because then they won't work. So basically did all that, mounted that on, just worked. And then Hardline Nexus does provide that cover for the back, or I should point on this side, that cover goes on the back that screws on, and then I vinyl wrapped that with that same forged carbon. Looks super, super sick. And then I actually ended up putting a little slit in the bottom. So where those cables channel down, they're actually meant to go through a slot to the left of this when you're looking at the back. But because my cable channels, I wanted to go straight down, a slight curve and straight down, had to put a slit in it. The cables come out between the motherboard tray and the PSU, and then they just route into the PSU itself. PSU here is a Thor P2 1600 watt. Definitely don't need a 1600 watt, but that's what I had. It looks cool. I'm trying to work out with ROG in Taiwan if we have time to swap out to a P3. Of course, being at the G.Skill booth, if we can get the latest tech in here, not just for G.Skill, but also ROG, who is a sponsor for this build as well. I'm thinking if I should swap that out. The cable pinouts are the same. The layout is a bit different. The 24 pin on this one is up and down on this side. On the P3, it's more towards the back. So I'm wondering if I should go to the trouble to swap that like a day or two before Computex, because that P3 would look really sick. Because at the moment you can't get them in the US, but in Taiwan, I should be able to get one. All right, rest of the hardware. Most of the water cooling is Bitspower. I think the Bitspower worked really good. Black Sparkle for all of the fittings. The rad is a Crosshair. I think they're like the XF, basically Hardware Labs Crosshair. For that, Crosshair fans, they're LX. They look really nice, just simple. It's got that one line down the side, and then you got that nice flow glow on the fan hub. Now for the fan mode I've got, it might not look good on camera, but it is the time warp. So basically it alters the way the light works, that it looks like the fan is stationary when it's on, but it is spinning. And you can do it so it can do clockwise or anti-clockwise in a very slight oscillation, and it looks really cool in person. So I've got that set. Bitspower, massive Bitspower 400 millimeter reservoir, which just fills in that gap nicely. Another good thing with this Valkyrie XL case is the motherboard tray can slide in and out. So the PSU is fixed. So there's 2 points up here, 2 points down the bottom, and I can slide this. Like if I had a lot of soft tubing, I could slide this in and out now, providing you undo the screws. This here wouldn't allow me to slide it because this is fixed, but it's a good thing you can do. You can put your system in, and then you can say, hey, I want a thinner rad, no res here. So you can slide it in more. And now this means I would say the depth of the case is being reduced because you are sliding it in. So that's another neat little feature. I'll talk about the GPU block a little bit later. I did the unboxing and quick look on the X870 Crosshair Extreme. This is it here. I said I was using it in an upcoming build for Computex. So here it is. The board just fits in here so well, and it just looks really good with the rest of the system. Of course, you got the screen there. Of course, G.Skill memory, Trident Z Nero, of course, for this AMD platform. That's the main sort of feature of this build. But in saying that, showing off memory is very hard in a build. It's not something you can just sort of extrude out. It's always going to be in that spot. I've even Googled things for like memory risers. I know we got GPU risers, but something cool where you could rise the memory out somewhere to put it somewhere else. But because memory is such a high frequency, you can't really extend it any more than you can like on a GPU riser cable. Memory there, the the CPU block is the Bitspower Revo, the one where it has the stealth tubing goes in the back, so it gets its in and out through the actual motherboard holes. They got your 2 ends up the top, they flow down, and then they flow out the back, and then this is just a little mirror cap that goes on the top to clean it up. So that feeds in from the back. Rest of the hardware is this 5090 Astral. Now I've done an actual dedicated video on this new block. This is DeltaMate, so this is a block from Thermal Grizzly. So they are getting into water cooling. When I mean getting into water cooling, they do have the micro direct die blocks, but now they're getting into a full suite. They're gonna have radiators, they're gonna have CPU blocks, normal CPU blocks, not dedicated deleted ones. They're gonna have rads, I think I said that. They're gonna have fittings. So hopefully in the future, I can do a full DeltaMate build using all of their water cooling, but this is their first item, which is the 5090 Astral. I do want to thank ROG for sending the GPU for this build. I know they're very expensive and it just looks so good in this build. So that dedicated video I've done on this block, I don't know if that's going to be already out because this video will be going in the future. Hoping I can get that video out before this one so you know all about this block, because I'm not going to go over this block now. Because of that dedicated video, it goes for about 20 minutes. I talk about all the materials on the block, all the features, everything like that, the idea behind it. But it just looks really, really nice in this build, and it just fits in nicely and it complements the rest of it as well. Of course, it's got RGB there. I wanted to keep all the RGB red. RGB red is very hard to do. Sometimes it looks orangey, sometimes it looks too pink. For me, I try to favor the pinkish side a little bit rather than the more orangey side. So that's why it might look a little bit pink on film, but I think in real life, it looks pretty good. CPU is a 9950X. I don't have an X3D. 9950X is still pretty decent. 5090 Astral, 1600 watt PSU. Don't know how much the case is worth. I don't even think Hardline Nexus has sort of priced it yet. And then we have the Extreme as well. But I think that is pretty much it for this video. I am doing a G.Skill Computex video, so I will be covering their booth. I'll go over some of the, it's hard to go over a lot of mods at Computex because normally I'm covering either the products or the builds. So depending on how many products G.Skill has coming out, if they don't have too much, I should have some room to cover some of the builds because they do have a lot of builds on display. So if I'm spending 15 minutes talking about products, it doesn't leave much room to talk about the builds, but you'll definitely see this one here on display. And there's a lot of other talented modders. Like, I kind of feel like, I wouldn't say a bit of a letdown, but some of the other guys do absolutely amazing work. They do scratch builds. I used to do scratch builds previously for G.Skill when I was asked to do it for Computex, but they just took months and months and months. So now I've kind of moved on to more streamlined build in like a case like this. And I just think it complements like their memory and so on, where like sometimes a scratch build can look amazing, but sometimes it's hard to show off the memory and some of the other components in the build as well. But yeah, there's so many other talented modders out there who are doing those builds, which is really good. And it's really good to be amongst them as well. But I think that is it. I just don't want to make sure I've missed anything else. So I've gone over all the hardware, the back of it, which looks really cool. You might be wanting the sort of braided tubing I've got on the back. That's Crosshair. It's relatively new. It's soft tubing. It comes pre-sleeved, which is really nice. Just cut it with scissors. Don't need anything special. It's quite thin. And then you get the right size compression fittings and then away you go. And that just looks really nice as well. But anyway, I think that's it. I want to thank G.Skill for giving me a chance again this year. I want to thank ROG, also Thermal Grizzly for being one of the first to use this block. And yeah, Bitspower as well for the hardware. But anyway, thanks for watching and stay tuned for my Computex video and we'll see you in the next one.